Welcome to this new Flight Simulator update movie. Aircraft Avionics update number 2 beta, right? It received a new update a few days ago. I recorded this video a little bit late, but 5 days ago there was a new build released. And again, there are a lot of fixes in it. So first of all, it will bump up the version to version 1.33.6.0. And again, I would say default recommendations to move out any content of the community folder if you're experiencing any issues, as well as that if you see the offline low bandwidth error message, that they encourage you to enroll in this public beta. It doesn't contain fixes, but it contains some more telemetry data, right? That's for us Servo and Microsoft to investigate these issues. Now going to the fixes. First of all, the glass cockpits, the Garmin G3000 and G5000. There are some fixes for some edge gauges where the VPAP was not properly disarmed, deactivated after a change to the VNAV state, right? You can press that VNAV button, and if there was a change in the VNAV, it wouldn't, I would say, directly affect that VNAV option. It wouldn't, I would say, correctly disable that functionality. In addition to that, there are fixes for various cases where the VNAV profile would sometimes display incorrect information near the end of an approach, depending on if the missed approach was activated. So there were specific scenarios where it didn't work correctly, right? So if you were at the end of an approach and then if the missed approach was activated, right, which is a button, it didn't work properly. Third fix is a bug where the autopilot flight director would not deactivate the lock mode, right? The localizer mode during ILS lock approaches after the active nav source switches to FMS. So if you switch the nav source to FMS, normally it should disable every, I would say, navigation or in this case approach or lock or ILS lock approach mode from the autopilot. And in this case, it looks like they didn't deactivate it, sorry. And that's, I would say, not as expected. And they fixed the bug where certain intersections would not be displayed on the map or the GTC nearest intersections page, right? So that's also a nice fix. Then the G1000 NXI. So they fixed the clear button on the MFD flight map view not presenting a confirmation pop-up, right? So if you pressed clear, it was simply gone. There was no confirmation. And they fixed the bug where certain intersections would not be displayed on the map or the nearest intersection page. It looks like there's an overlap between the functionalities being used by the G3000 and G1000 NXI. In addition to that, they fixed missing display of the VNAV information on the MFD, and they fixed the bug where the autopilot would not deactivate. Again, overlap with this one. And that's also what you see with the Garmin GNS 430W and 530W, right? There are two, or at least one fix, or at least two fixes, I can see, where there's an overlap with the other aircrafts, right? Or the other cockpits. That's this one, which we discussed also here, which is fixed in both the G3000, G5000, the G1000 NXI, as well as the GNS cockpit. As well as the fixed the bug where certain intersections would not be displayed. That's again, I would say, fixed the bug where it would say closely maps to the G1000 NXI. The only, I would say, specific one is the fixed the bug that could cause the list in the nearest pages to become corrupted. That's the fix for the GNS 430W and 530W, which is unique for that aircraft. Then going to the aircrafts. And hold your horses because this is a long list again. First, let's go to the added functionality because they added some new functionality. That's mainly due to the checklist, as you can see. So there are 3 items where they added functionality to the checklist. First of all, the avionic checklist will now be auto-completed up to the phase of the flight that you're spawned in, right? So if you spawned into the flight where you're already on cruise, then it will mark those other, let's say, checklists already as completed. And they added an auto-completable item for setting the IRS position on the POS-init CDU page. That one was missing, where you need to change the IRS position to make sure that it was in the initialized page or in the initialized position, sorry, to initialize the IRS, right? Last item for the checklist is they added more auto-completable in-game checklists. So within the aircraft, they have more checklists, so that's cool. Then VNAV, they added the ability to set the MCP altitude to the missed approach altitude and continue descent in VNAV path when MCP altitude is set to 300 or greater above the current altitude. So that's cool. And systems, they added pressurization system with the FMS auto and man landing altitude capabilities and automatic VNAV based altitude scheduling. Okay. Then there's an FX functionality where they added the heat blur effects when the APU is running, right? So if the APU is running, you now will see that it's kind of running because there's some heat coming off it. That's cool. Hopefully on the outside, not on the inside. Systems for the 747, they added air conditioning and the basic duct pressure simulation, enabled ECS synoptics page, and in the cockpit for the 747, they enabled the most air conditioning panel buttons on the overhead panel, right? So on the overhead panel, which on the top of the aircraft, you can now control the aircraft or control the air conditioning. Last one, they enabled the yaw damper overhead button functionality and corresponding CAS messages, right? These are the messages which are being displayed on the, one of the screens where you can see, okay, hey, it's been enabled or not. Then they implemented a ton of bug fixes and improvements. First of all, the performance one is a more than welcome, where they optimize the performance and the target optimizations for periodic stutter on certain hardware configurations. And they fixed a lot of stability issues where they fixed issues where the sim would become unresponsive. Looks like a performance related thing. And they fixed sim freeze when executing -dir mode, right? So that's cool. Also, they updated the sequence to fully start the engines when using the Control E key, right? That's the short key to start all the engines. And they made some changes to the cockpit, right? First of all, the windshield de-icing switches are now operate independently. And they updated the flap lever tooltip values to match the number next to the leveler, along with the degrees. Checklist, they revised the item shown on the avionics checklist and the PFD. There was an issue where the speed bug disappeared when in Mac and sim rate was increased. So if you increase the sim rate, right, which means that you're actually fast forwarding, then it would disappear. Then tons of fixes for the NDU. Right, so it no longer shows terminal waypoints. It now shows RNAV intersections, only shows airport with runways longer than 2,000 meters. So all the ones which are below, they won't be shown again. And they fixed the plan format, so it still works when the iris is not aligned. That was an issue. Last item, they added the black outlines to the top of descent. ED, I'm not sure what it stands for. And TC, top of climb, I do expect. Labels, so they made some change there. If you know what these abbreviations are, right, especially the ED, then I'll put a note in the comment box below this video. Then they added or fixed a lot of CDU issues, mostly I would say related to but functionality not working, right? So they fixed the GW field on the AppRef page is not updating an entry. The appearance of the climb page once the phase of flight has sequenced past climb. They removed the pos init pages 3 and 4 as they were only holding placeholder values, and they fixed the VNAV page, not following units chosen by the user to display the destination view on board. They fixed an issue caused the wind page to flicker, but there are no lags in the flight plan, and tons of other fixes for the CDU. Then the FMC. They removed some deduplications of lags in the flight plan when loading the flight plan, and they improved the reliability of accuracy of the flight plan predictions, and they fixed the bug where the speed transition or restriction toggled on or off during descent. So cool things. Then VNAV, also several bugs, especially where it would disconnect after the takeoff due to the bad operating phase behavior, and they fixed the TC being too far out and incorrect in general. And they also made sure that the speed constraints for final are now automatically added when VREF is selected in the perf approach mode. Some fix for the autopilot. Fixed the bug where the autothrottle would not go to the speed mode during the MCP altitude capture in a VNAV speed climb, and modestly improved the autothrottle's airspeed tracking behavior. And as last one, the auto activate on ARM when AP is in VNAV or flight level change mode. Then the CAS reset the MCP altitude. It clears now when you lower the selected altitude below the cruise altitude, and the auto throttle deactivation due to reverse thrust no longer triggers auto throttle disk message, right? Which was, I would say, if you would put it in reverse thrust, you would see this message on the CAS. Last one, they fixed the text of certain engine-related CAS messages. Also a lot of improvements for the sounds, right? Especially for the throttle leveler sounds, which were inplayed incorrectly. Then we've got the FM. They adjusted idle thrust to produce book descent rates, and they reduced the spoiler effectiveness to more realistic values, as well as the in-game weight and balance pay now display the correct center of gravity for the aircraft. FM flight management. Exterior, they fixed thrust reverse deployment animations to only play when reverse thrust is commanded by the FedEx EEC. Also makes sense. And there were some controls which worked incorrectly, which they now changed, right? So that's cool. Then other things for the 787, right? So these are specific ones for the 787. These are the ones for 747. So there were some issues where it would show some airport waypoints or star waypoints. They're now minimap no longer shows, right? That's being fixed. Also, the fly-by-wire now properly responds to the numpad 5 to center control surfaces, as well as they made some sound improvements. The HUD, the to-go reference line now appears at the correct position during the takeoff roll. And the ICAS, they fixed two boxes, one where the flaps couch indicator becomes visible unexpectedly, and one where the flashing effect, the fuel balance flag, happens unexpectedly, right? That's both when switching from the ICAS to the FO side, right, to the first officer side. Then they implemented two fixes, the rudder trim gouge position, as well as the fuel pump states, which were not correctly displayed on the MFDs. That's being fixed. As well as if we go to the systems, they fixed the air compressors. Compressors now showing available with packs off, and the IRS will now draw backup battery power if it has been aligned and primary power is removed. That was, I would say, a specific scenario. If you would pull the primary power, then I'd say you could start from scratch, but now it looks like that they, I would say, that you can use the backup battery power, right? They fixed the fuel scavenging happening in a cold and dark mode, as well as they illuminated center pump pressure lights when the pump fills. That's cool. And they fixed some checklists, right? That's cool. And also from flight manageability, they adjusted the suspension to the fixed gear contact and bounce issues, adjusted the ground effect to improve landing and settling during the flare. That's the last, I would say, part of the landing, right, where you flare. That they adjusted that. Performance, adjust the climb performance. They fixed some bugs with the flaps and with the sled auto gap latched if landing while it was activated, and they fixed autopilot issue or auto throttle issue. They improved the go around thrust calculation in the throttle mode. The HUD ground acceleration symbol is no longer occurred by the lateral deviation indicator, right? The HUD is the one which you can pull down and then you can see, okay, what's going on. Then two fixes for the PFD and the HUD. Both have to do with the AOA speed and the ISFD speed. So both are, I'd say, speed indicators which now display under the appropriate conditions. So that's cool. The CDU, they fixed the FMC message CAS message from always being visible, right? That's was an issue where it simply continued to display the message continuously in the CAS, but now it's fixed. The CAS, they added the emergency lights advisory message when flight deck emergency lights switch is not in the arm position, and they fixed incorrect caution inhabits during engine shutdown. That's again for the 747, because these are the fixes for the 747. Also, that one reflected some, or they got some fixed for the flaps, as well as they fixed some system issues where which caused climb 1 and climb 2 to come on too high on N1. And the ADRUs now draw backup power from the APU hot battery bus, right? So if the primary power is lost, then the center ADRU remains on the backup battery for 5 minutes before automatically being shut down. So there's a correlation also with some other fixes. Then the APU standby bus will no longer draw power from the captain transfer bus if the standby power selector is set to battery. As well as they made a change to the flight management where they moved the trim configuration to reduce self liftoff. The PFD, the airspeed indicator and MAC readout, is now replaced by speed and MAC, right? That's, let's say, more in line with what it normally is. And they changed the NavX functionality where they fixed the engine heat blur reversed on engines 1 and 2. That was not correctly being displayed. That's now being fixed. 2 cockpit fixes, the CMD button, text emissiveness, and they fixed the behavior of the autopilot engage button indicator lights. So a lot of fixes for the 787 and 747. Continuing with the CG4 and the WT21. First of all, the autopilot flight director heading mode now only reverses turn direction if the selected heading is turned past the aircraft current heading. If in the direction of the turn reversal, that's a fix which we also saw for other aircrafts in a previous release of the or previous build of the update. And they improved the behavior of the turn anticipation calculation around AF, RF lags whose start and end points are slightly offset from the arc. And they fixed a bug where the autopilot flight director would not deactivate the lock mode, right? That's likely correlated with one of the other fixes which we saw earlier. Then the chassis citation longitude, they fixed a bug related to the landing gear during loading, and the roll spoilers mid and outboard can no longer be extended without hydraulic system pressure. That was possible, but I would say it was kind of unrealistic. They made it more realistic. Last fix is they improved the auto throttle's airspeed tracking behavior and improved the responsiveness of the auto throttle when envelope speed protection is active. Now specifically for the LS8, they fixed a minor texture issue and then some peripheral issues. First one is specifically for gamepad, where the right analog joystick would not spinning any knobs in the aircraft, and they fixed the valve index not being able to zoom in out on the VFR map. Those are 2 peripheral issues or peripheral fixes, and there's 1 fix for the SDK. So a lot of fixes again, especially to the Boeing 747 and 787, as well as some of the glass cockpits. This is the latest release, so let's see when they're coming up with a new build. I don't expect one this week, but maybe the week after. Here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.